Hello everyone and welcome to my Mists of Pandaria Shaman Leveling Guide, where I will show you my talent and Glyph Tree and also talk about the different specializations and also compare them at different levels. The moment you reach level 10, you can choose your specialization. There's going to be 2 for DPS and a healer. As healer, you'll mainly be dungeon farming because you'll be doing awful if you're going solo questing. This is where Enhancemet and Elemental is way better, as it's just focusing on doing a high amount of damage. In my opinion, Enhancemet is the best because you don't have to wait for mana and there's always next to no downtime, compared to Elemental, where you will sometimes have to drink and you won't have instant heals later on like you will benefit from as Enhancemet. However, it's not like Elemental is doing awful. In my opinion, they're pretty close to each other. Also because we can now run and cast our lightning bolt at any given time. This makes this specialization so amazing in the beginning because we are just running from one creature to another and at the same time you're finishing off the other one with your lightning bolt. What I also like to do is to gather many enemies together and use my thunderstorm. It is a long cooldown, but it's also pretty amazing for doing AoE damage at low level. Remember, it's not like you only have to use lightning bolt. You can also use your Primal Strike and Earth Shock whenever you get close to the enemies. For those of you with an Earlham weapon, I like to enchant mine with Power Torrent as it increases my intellect for a short duration, but even though it is a short duration, you will also be doing a lot of additional spell damage. How about Enhancemet? Well, here you will mainly be focusing on being in melee range, as most of your damage will be done when in melee. This is definitely also a very decent specialization, because even though you need to get close to them, you're always running from one creature to another and you're doing so much damage that you're also taking them down in 1 to 2 seconds. So I guess it all depends on if you would like to be a spellcaster or a melee character. However, if you're leveling as Enhancemet, you can still use your lightning bolt while you're running and from range. So you can use this as you're moving to the next target. This makes this spec so much fun to play and why I usually choose this. Also because I never have any downtime. On my weapons I like to use Mongoose, but as a low level character I also like Elemental Force as it's proccing all the time and it's doing so much damage. Yeah, this is why I'm also able to one-shot most enemies. In a moment I will show my talent and Glyph trees and also explain why I choose these, but first I would also like to highlight that if you're going to level a shaman and if you won't be in dungeons all the time, then questing is the best possible way to level, and therefore I would also recommend you to try out this amazing leveling guide. It's working in the pre-patch and of course also in Mists of Pandaria from level 1 to 90. There's a free version you can try out by using the link below this video, and there you can also get the full version. Alright, moving on to my talent tree. This is how it looks like, and now an explanation for each choice. Even though Astral Shift has a long cooldown, then whenever I'm dropping low, or if I need to do a huge pull, I can activate this to also reduce my damage taken by 6 seconds. Where the Stone Bulwark totem, it requires you to also be in range, so if you're just kiting or moving from one creature to another, you won't really benefit much from this totem. And the last option will require you to drop low before it will be useful. So why not choose a talent you can use whenever you like to, and this will also prevent you from ever reaching a low amount of health. At level 30 you can choose Windwalker totem. This is mainly for PvP or when you reach max level and you need to provide something useful for the raid. I mainly choose Earthgrab totem, one of the reasons being that it's rooting the enemies, so you can use this and get away. You can also use it for when you need to kite and stack the enemies together before you start doing AoE and cleave damage. Frozen Power is a passive where a Frost Shock now roots the enemy for 5 seconds. This is also good in PvP, but I don't like it that much in PvE when I need to kite but still do damage to the target because it will now be rooted. Remember, if you need to get away from a sticky situation, it's usually not when you're just fighting one enemy anyway. Therefore, you would much rather like to root everything so you can also get away without dying. Because we're always moving a lot as Enhancemet and Elemental, then I like Totemic Projection as it only has a 10-second cooldown. Being able to relocate our totems is absolutely insane because it doesn't really require any mana compared to having to spawn all your totems again. The second option isn't really that great. First off, we haven't unlocked many totems at this level, and what I would also like to say is that once again, we're not staying at the same location for a long time. so you won't really benefit much from this talent. Being able to reset the cooldown of our totems is definitely not a bad talent, but then again it also has a 3 minutes cooldown, so you won't benefit much from this compared to totemic projection that you will benefit from at any given time. At level 60 we can choose Elemental Mastery, increasing our haste by 30% for 20 seconds. This is mainly for elemental shamans, or well, you're benefiting more from this, so it's not a bad talent if you're leveling as elemental. The second option will passively increase our spell haste by 5% and melee haste by 10%. This is not a huge amount, but you will also be able to cast the next nature spell instantly, so it's not a bad talent. I just prefer Echoes of the Elements as it's constantly proccing, and being able to double your healing or damage is going to be way better. Later in the video I will also compare the different specializations at level 60 so you can see Echoes of the Elements in action, and then later on level 85 as well. When we reach level 75 we can choose yet another talent, but all of these are mainly focusing on you doing damage to also be healing, so it's not really something that will help you a lot when you're leveling, but it will be useful if you're dungeon farming or when you reach max level. I usually choose Ancestral Guidance, as this is a nice cooldown you can activate and then start bursting to heal. But rushing streams are also good if you're just leveling in the open world and sometimes inviting another player, then both of you will benefit from your healing stream totem. What about my glyphs? I always go for Flame Shock no matter the specialization, as it provides healing when I apply my Flame Shock. Lightning Shield will always be active, so why not reduce your damage taken by 10% for 6 seconds. The last glyph I'm using is either Healing Storm or Spirit Walk, but this is only if I'm leveling as Enhancemet. As Elemental I swap this into Unstable Earth, so my Earthquake will now also apply a slow to all the targets affected by the damage. For my minor glyphs I reduce the cooldown of my second Heartstone by 5 minutes. And there's yet another glyph for the very same spell. But what this does is that it will now take you to your capital's Earth Shrine. As a Horde player it's equal to Orgrimmar, and as an Alliance, Stormwind City. This is so insane, because you can then change your Heartstone to your questing location. So when you need to go to your main city you use this spell, and when you need to go back to your questing location you will then be using your Heartstone. Your last minor glyph isn't that important. I usually choose this, but you can go for whatever you like. Next up, I'll compare the different specializations at level 60, starting with the Enhancemet Shaman. My kill speed is close to how it were when I showcased level 10, but now I'm just having way more survivability, and I can also easily pull more targets and start doing AoE or will cleave damage. What I like a lot about this specialization is that you never have any downtime, you're never low on mana, and you have the opportunity to also proc your Maelstrom weapons into converting this into healing, so instant heals allowing you to just go on and on. In my opinion, I find this such a fun leveling specialization when I'm in Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King and also Cataclysm content, because yeah, you're just constantly having something to do, and you never really have to worry about dying. So are you telling me we should just be leveling as Enhancemet? No, not at all. In Burning Crusade elementals are also doing good. You have your Earthquake, you can easily stack the enemies together with your Earthbind totem, you have your Chain Lightning and instant Lava Burst procs. Yeah, this is not bad at all. What I like a lot about Elemental is that you constantly also have something to use, and now you will also be able to run, use your Lightning Bolt and sometimes an instant Lava Burst. And when you crit with your Lava Burst, which you always does if you have a Flame Strike on the enemy, well, then you're also almost one-shotting these. So once again, it basically depends on how you would like to level. Would you prefer to be in melee or most of the times in range as a spellcaster? And then again, if we are looking at the leveling speed, there isn't a huge difference, so you should just choose whatever you prefer or find the most fun. At level 85, elemental shamans are still performing good when you're just focusing on one target, and sometimes you can almost one-shot them if you're lucky with your procs. But if you're pulling many, you will actually have to once in a while also cast a healing spell, else you will end up dying if you're pulling many at the same time. When I'm pulling many, I don't feel like this is comfortable at all, at least not if we compare to just killing 1 or 2, where elementals are so strong and where you never really have to worry about dying. So if you're a person that just prefers to kill 1 or 2 at the same time, then I would most likely choose elemental, because having these procs, like you can see right here, are just fun, as you're basically one-shotting these enemies. How about Enhancement in Mists of Pandaria? Well, single target wise, you don't have as big burst compared to elemental, but then again your damage isn't really bad, and like you can see here, I don't really have to worry about my health, as I have many different ways to always be at max health. But will it stay like this if I'm pulling way more targets? Well, let's see right here. To me, everything feels more safe, mainly because of Maelstrom weapon I can use for that instant heal, and at the same time I have so many different things to do cleave and AoE damage. I know the damage done is not as high compared to elemental, but it's constant. And if I activate all my different cooldowns, I'm also unkillable, able to pretty much also pull 10 enemies at the same time and probably stay above 50% health at all time. I honestly find it difficult to decide what is the best specialization to choose, either in Mists of Pandaria content or from level 10 and all the way up to max level, as both of these has advantages but also disadvantages. So what it comes down to should probably be what you would like to do at max level. So if you would like to play elemental, then you should probably just level as elemental, so you're used to the different spells and rotations. So I hope you enjoyed this leveling guide. If you would like to see more Mists of Pandaria videos and guides, make sure to check out my channel or subscribe to get notified the next time I post a new video. As always, thank you so much for watching, happy leveling, and have an amazing day. Peace.